This way, young man.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to healthierlife.tv and today's show with myself and my co-presenter, Mr. Who?
I had to think about that for a moment. Paul Bursley. I'm from near or just outside London in the UK. So today's actual episode, if you want to call it that, is the modern diet. Is it deficient in nutrients? Well, I can quite honestly say yes, it is. So that's the end of the show. But yes, absolutely. When you're asking that, but why are modern diets lacking in key nutrients? Why do you think, young man?
Look, there's been there's been various studies that have been conducted through the years, and there was a study that was conducted in 2004 that took density or nutrient density within foods, but from 1950 to 1999, and to determine whether foods in the 50s were as nutrient dense as they are today. So I'm just making sure I've got my dates right. But it was basically, they found that protein decreased by like 6% on average in plants. Okay.
Well, over that period of time.
Down. Yeah, vitamin C by 15% and vitamin D by 38%. So they can't call it really solid data because in the 50s the technology was not as what it is today. Okay. But it was done nonetheless with what they had at the time, and we're doing the tests today. The technology is a little bit different, but like you said, it's quite clear to say, density in food or the nutrient density in food has decreased over the years. All right. And the quality, so therefore, thus the quality of our food has decreased. But not everybody's in agreement with that theory or with that conjecture as to whether it is the case or not. Some people say it hasn't changed. But
I think it's pretty clear cut myself. But
more and more people are saying. I mean, if you look at it like this as well, if you look at the farming that we have today compared to the farming that we had just in the 50s, okay, or the pre-war period as well, the biodiversity in the farms was far more than it is today. So yes, we use different things, chemicals, whatever, to keep the soil clean per se, but there's no biodiversity in it. You don't have little animals moving through the croplands anymore, as much as in some places maybe, but most of them, you don't have any of that kind of those migrations of animals and animals just moving through lands where you get their feces in the soil, urine, or the foots, taking pollen and other things from one area to the next, and then dropping off those things in different farm lands where that seeps into the soil, and therefore the density of the soil is depleted as well. So there's that factor to take into account too.
Yeah, that's huge. That is huge. Now, nutrients are obviously critical to our health, as we well know. And of course, there is a knock-on effect. And the knock-on effect is for you, me, everyone, the individual, on their health status. Now, obviously, the health status, I've written this down. So the health status is an individual's relative level of wellness and illness, taking into account the presence of biological or physiological dysfunction, symptoms, and functional impairment. And that's the problem we have at the moment. People's health status is not good enough. And there's a million and one reasons, obviously, but you said at least one or two of them. But ultra processing has got to be Mr. Nasty, as I call it.
Yeah.
And I do. There is another villain which I'm going to talk about in a minute that you'll find funny.
Look, we've just before you get onto that, and I want to just highlight something. When you look at two of the most populous countries in the world, China and India, when the Western food market moved into those countries, and I was watching a documentary the other day in India where the shopping malls are now coming into India, big shopping centers.
Mm-hmm.
And inside these shopping centers, you've got fast food outlets everywhere. And in India and China, they have fast food, but it's their foods, it's their foods that they're used to eating, and that are typically quite nutrient dense as well. The foods that they're eating are very often more organic than not, but it's also the way the foods are prepared and things like this. The foods are more nutritious than the foods that they're eating now in the food halls and food markets of supermarkets. Where it's just not, like, for example, you go to a cheese outlet or a pizza outlet, and you think you're getting cheese on your pizza, and it's not even cheese, it's just chemicals.
Yeah.
And that's just one small example. So if you look at what's happened in China when they opened up to the Western market many years ago, many kids started becoming obese, and type 2 diabetics and things like this. And the similar thing is happening in India at the moment, where the younger population is becoming more and more obese. They're pushing with different certain foods into the younger market through schools and all things like this. I won't name any companies, but these are the companies that really don't. They just care more about marketing and be able to get their products into your hands rather than how much nutrition is in the food. And it fills these kids up. They like the taste. They get used to the flavors. They just one was KFC. They've even when they opened up KFC, they have a special sauce for the Indian market. So it's a spicier sauce with the KFC product. That's to attract more people into their stores. Yeah.
It's funny you should say about India and China. I was thinking for me, it's more about a place like Vietnam, because I remember seeing footage. I used to follow the Vietnam War and all that type of thing. So, hello, has gone, right. I used to watch the Vietnam War, and every film, you never saw anyone with any excess weight. They were all slim. They looked healthy. Right, Warren, are you back?
Sorry about that.
I don't know where you went, Warren, but suddenly far.
I meant to push on the chat button instead. I pushed on the leave button.
All I was saying was, instead of China and India, I was thinking more in terms of Vietnam, because any footage you used to see, you never saw anyone with an ounce of fat on them. I don't know what it's like now. I don't know, but it just goes to show that over a period of 40, 50 years, your health, the health status of a country can go down.
And
it's normally due to, as you mentioned, Western food.
Diet.
Fast
food. Yeah. Fast food, immediate gratification diet.
And we've all done it. We've all had what
we've all had indulged in it. Yeah.
Yeah, but some of us have seen the light a little bit. Something about it. Well, my question to you would be: is it too late?
Never.
Okay.
And it doesn't even matter if you are in your 70s and 80s or beyond, and you are super unhealthy, because you now realize those TV foods I've been eating for the last 50 years is killing me. It's never too late. You may have serious health issues and you may need to overcome certain things, but it's never too late. And for the majority of the population around the world, and in terms of being able to change that culture, no. I think we're already on the road of a new culture in eating, in terms of how we eat in the Western world. We're already onto that.
We've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we still do. Unfortunately, the people with the big bucks, they have the means to market and push things into people's faces every day, and they can afford the convenience, that people are looking for. And one thing I was thinking of is one of the American fast food chains that was in the shopping mall. They were interviewing a family, and the lady said, when we come and eat here, it's clean. The utensils are good. Everything that we get is nice. It's ordered. And this is another factor, is that these companies have the money to make their customers feel like they're privileged, or they're like they are respected more. They have the money to be able to do that as well. So that's going to pull more people into their stores because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to a few years ago, in the what happened, and I'm doing this with a smile on my face, so it's a bit light-hearted. Okay? The person we should blame, right, is President Eisenhower.
Okay.
In 1955, he had a heart attack. So
Okay.
and I'm only joking, but because of that, all the health authorities and that started looking at CVD, cardiovascular disease. They started looking at fat. They started looking at sugar and things, and that's when between the 50s and through to about 1977, the US came up with this food pyramid. Okay.
Oh, yes.
And what happened was, and because we follow here,
The
I don't think
archetypical
anyone says we've got
correct.
some of the best scientists in the world, but we do a lot of following, and it's normally at a government level. However, we started using, or the US started using, grains, bread, wheat, and cereals. Now, as the base of our diet. Now, this is the funny bit that I want to go. I blame Frosties. Tony the Tiger. Remember Tony the Tiger? I blame him because basically I loved them. Sugar-coated cornflakes, and as I say,
I know, yeah. I want to just highlight something to anybody that's listening or watching this. Yeah, is that Paul and I are not nutritionists. Yeah, I'm not a nutritionist, a qualified nutritionist. Paul is. He's a studying. Oh, you actually have qualified.
I have passed.
Yeah, so he has qualified, newly qualified.
To keep it under wraps because I tend to prefer use funny analogies and things like that rather than go down the hardcore.
Yeah, but what I'm alluding to is the fact that I mean, me for myself personally, I can only speak for myself. I'm not qualified to say to somebody, do this, and do this when it comes to food because of whatever. But what I can do is I can do my own research and I can find out, and through the years of experience that I have in this industry, discover what are the secrets or what are the myths around many things, and food included in that, because I know it benefits myself, my family, and my clients and the people that I work with. So, when we joke about this, it's like, because we understand that the vast majority of people don't really have much of a clue as to what it is that's damaging them, and why it's damaging them. They have an idea that, food's maybe not as nutritious as it used to be, but they don't really understand why. For example, eggs. If you take eggs, okay, now people used to think that eggs were very fattening for you and bad for you and for your cholesterol and all this kind of stuff. But it's shown that eggs are extremely nutritious. But the key here is that if you get good quality eggs,
grass-fed chicken,
that's when they are nutritious. When you're getting eggs that come from chickens that are kept in coops and that are food fed whatever other than something that's natural to them, which is typically corn. And if you look at the corn today compared to the corn from the past, you can't recognize the similarity anymore, all right? Because the corn has become so selectively bred that they've created a new corn, literally. And those chicken are being fed that corn, they're laying those eggs, you can just put two and two together and you're going to realize, hey, hang on a second, this is a fetus. And if I'm eating that, imagine what it's doing to my body, okay? So because it is nutrient dense, it's very dense, full of nutrition. The protein in the egg is, if I'm not mistaken, is the most bioactively available protein that we can eat, okay? In terms of, so what that means is that the most amount of protein from that egg is going to be absorbed into your body. Right?
Great for the brain as well.
But the thing is that with all this protein deficiency that's in the foods, a lot of this, the makeup, the supplement of that is carbohydrates, and that's because there's other studies have also shown the increase in CO2 in the farmlands. It makes foods grow faster and get bigger, all right. But it doesn't mean that they're dense in nutrients like vitamins and minerals and proteins and stuff. They're just packed full of carbohydrate. Okay, so because the plants are literally sucking up more sugars than anything else, from what I understand, and yes, they look good, they look nice, and they're big and they're juicy and whatever, but you can taste the difference as well. You can just taste the difference in the foods, and it's so it's not that difficult to really realize that, hey, what we're eating today is probably not as nutritious as what my grandparents were eating or what I ate when I was a kid, if you're our age, in my bracket or Paul's bracket. Yeah.
All I'll say is when President Eisenhower had his heart attack, it was the year I was born. So I'll give you a clue.
But Frosties is most definitely a culprit. He must definitely be as must Ronald McDonald, if you think about it.
Yeah, I know. He's on my death list.
Don't say that on your
hit list. My hit list. I'm going to paint him black. That'll be make him happy. Anyway, listen. Last 40 years, what we've done with the grains is we've gone from 2 to 4 servings a day to 2 to 3 times that, and we're out of kilter. We're out of balance. Even with that, and our bodies can't adapt. It can't adapt. It's too much. Whereas before we have too much gluten, and that's got nothing to do with people who've got celiac disease or gluten intolerance. We're talking about the average person is having too much gluten.
It goes back to yes. Again, we spoke about gluten before. Gluten is not necessarily the enemy. It's just how gluten is packaged.
Yeah, how it's packaged, and also how much we have. And
exactly.
Because it's one of the biggest contributors to leaky gut.
Mm-hmm.
Now, leaky gut can really sort of it just means your intestines they're permeable, lets in toxins into your bloodstream, and it impairs everything there. And of course, then what happens is we don't absorb the nutrients. So it's there's lots of little knock-on effects everywhere. So it's important that you do have a varied and balanced diet. Try to have as much quality as possible. Try and grow your own food. We
have some stuff in our garden here. We've got some strawberries, we've got cherries, we've got grapes growing.
Yeah.
We've got some kohlrabi and some kale, I think, is out there.
Yeah.
We've got tomatoes growing. Small amounts, but it's enough for now. So it's important to start, if you've got garden space, grow your own stuff, because you can control the nutrient density or complexity of your own soils. You can control how you cultivating your vegetables or your fruits. If you've got the space, use it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Even in the city centers, many buildings have taken up their own initiatives where they have these gardens up in the roofs now together, in various cities around the world. So the owners, what do you call it? The owners board, like the board of owners of a building, they'll get together and then they make a decision whether they're going to put gardens or they put vertical gardens up and all this. And you can put vertical gardens up in your own home in an apartment. You don't have to have a house to have your own garden.
Mm. We have a lot of countries have to have that because they don't have any houses. They just have flats and apartments.
Yeah, like Singapore, for example. Yeah. KL, that's that part of the world. Malaysia, that part of the world. Indonesia.
Just the last thing about grains and things like that. Obviously, the knock-on effect, if you're not eating quality, if you're not eating the right amount and you're eating too much, it impairs your ability to suck in the nutrients like zinc, magnesium, and iron. So, we're never going to get it perfect. I don't think you should aim to be perfect, but what we should be looking to do is to get some of it right. Get some of it right. Get your sleep right. Drinking, hydration, and so on. And then
you don't need to be anal retentive about it. You don't need to be anal retentive about it.
No. I'm not. I mean, there's certain things I do, very simple things, and I sleep well at night. And I get up virtually the same time every morning. But that's without too much help. So because that's what we do. We deal with the whole body, mind, and lifestyle. We deal with heart health. We deal with gut health. We deal with immune system. We deal with sleep, and we deal with brain health. So if you need help in any of those areas, give us a shout.
you most likely do. You may just not necessarily know or realize or think about it.
In our experience, our business, we've tested well over 830,000 people, and that's not us. We've not done that all on our own. But
That was a busy week.
Yeah, it's busy week. I work 24 hours a day. No, and 97% of those people were out of balance, as health-wise. So I can guarantee, if I speak to you, you're probably going to be out of balance. But next week, and we haven't finished yet, but next week we're going to talk about longevity, right? Extreme longevity inside the blue zones of the world. If you don't know what blue zones are, then come back and see us next week. This is where people live longest and healthiest with their lifestyle and their eating habits. So, right, back to today. And as I say, it's there are a lot of different reasons why, people, how can I say, don't have a healthy lifestyle, and this first thing was the reliance on gluten and processed grains. Ultra processed food should be out. You shouldn't really entertain it. Would you agree with that, Warren?
Of course, definitely. It's if you have a tendency to ultra processed foods, then maybe once a week, have a day where you have a cheat day and you eat something that you just know you shouldn't be entertaining. Then have one of those if that's what you're used to. At least then to wean yourself off it. Because people get addicted to it as much as they enjoy the flavor and everything. Their bodies become addicted to it. Some people will say, I have an addiction towards this or this or this and this, and we're talking about foods because they're so processed, and it's the chemicals that are in that processing that causes the damage to us.
Yeah, cravings. It's cravings for something. It's like,
well, again, it goes back to this. Sorry, Paul, but it goes back to this in that it boils down to protein, really, from what I understand. From what I understand, it boils down to the protein. The fact that there's so little protein in the food today than there was in the past. We're talking about vegetables and things like this as well, fruits. That the body, you'll know if you eat enough protein. If you get enough protein in a meal, you'll feel satiated. Then you don't need to eat too much of anything else. But unfortunately, because most of the foods that we're eating today are packed with carbs and sugars, we're not getting that satiation. We may feel full for a period of time, but then we're going to be hungry very quickly. Or the brain's going to kick in. It's going to say, I need to feel that satiation. And it's not getting it enough because we're not able to consume enough protein, which means that we end up eating more. So even if we're eating healthy, you can still get obese because, you're going to typically eat breads and things like this. Most people do most parts of the world. If they're not like excessively strict, they're going to eat breads and other forms of carbohydrates. And then you're eating loads of veggies and fruits because you're not getting enough protein into your diet. And if you're eating meats as well, if it's a low quality meat, let's just say beef. If you're eating a low quality beef or eggs, like I mentioned, you're getting protein, but the quality of that protein is not satiating you enough. It just isn't, And one thing I just learned is that, even with high quality grass-fed beef, there's a type of iron called I don't know if you know about this, heme iron, HEME.
Heme iron,
Heme iron. Yeah. And it helps with red blood cells and actually your circulatory system because it's an actual usable iron as opposed to one that gets wasted and sits and goes part of the waste process in your body. It's a usable iron. So that you're going to find in quality beef, for example. So it's going to help with you.
I had some heme iron with my steak last night.
Oh, okay.
So I don't eat beef very often now because of the iron content.
Yeah.
But
if it's grass fed, then you shouldn't have too much of an issue because it's usable iron. So it's not like your body's going to be storing any of it.
No, that's right. Just quickly going back to CVD, cardiovascular disease. It was thought in the 70s, round about that time, that cholesterol was the enemy. That cholesterol was a fat carried in the bloodstream and could lay deposits in the arteries. Well, cholesterol is a naturally occurring substance in things like animal products, egg yolks, animal meats, bone marrow, things like that. And we were told to avoid it at all costs, if you remember. you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And as I say, it was wrong. Basically, we need it. We have to have cholesterol, you know. So this quick thing that they were attacking, saying, "Oh, you need to cut down on fat and all that," but it wasn't exactly right, you know. And we no longer eat, or most of us don't eat organ meat, you know, liver
Yeah.
and things like that. And they talked us out of eating animal fats, things like lard, dripping, tallow. Do you remember all that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, and many of us avoided eggs because, as you mentioned, because they said that
Bad cholesterol.
cholesterol, right?
Bad
So
fat. Bad fats. Yeah.
these foods I've just mentioned are among the most nutrient dense foods on the planet.
Yeah. Especially when it comes from quality sources. If it's of high quality, then definitely. For example, if I go buy chicken from the supermarket, a whole chicken to roast, I'm not going to eat that chicken very often, you know, because I want to have that fat in there.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy the crispy skin and the fat. But that's not something I want to eat very often because the quality of that fat is just not suitable for our bodies on a regular basis. But
Yeah.
if I go get a chicken from a farm that I know has been fed with natural grains and whatever, eating worms and that kind of stuff, then I'm gonna maybe have one of those once a week, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that fat is actually more beneficial for my body than harmful.
Yeah.
But and beef fat especially. And if you think about fats and proteins and you want something that is dense in fats and proteins and good, and you mentioned the animal organs, okay, which we've been weaned away from eating, which before many people ate because it's full of nutrients, okay. And if you want to get something like that, then something like sardines is ideal, because if you're going to eat sardines, you're getting small little sardines, you're eating the eyes, the brain, the jaw, the organs, everything inside there, and it's full of high density protein, quality protein, and it's obviously, Paul and I, it's got that omega-3, omega-6 ratio benefit behind it. So it improves our omega-3 intake into our body, and it's quality omega-3. It's not cheap rubbish omega-3. So this is, if you want to have something like that and you want to think of something that is going to be nutrient dense for you, and you got protein, fats, and oils and stuff like that, and other kind of nutrients that come from the organs inside, sardines.
Yeah. It's like 50 grams of liver will give you 50% of all your micronutrient requirements for a day.
Again, but what quality of liver though?
Yeah, again, it's got to be quality. The other thing was, if you don't like eating liver, now I was force fed as a kid, so I don't eat it in the nicest possible way.
I like it.
But you can get around it. You can have liver pate.
Yeah.
And bone broth, things like that. I mean, that doesn't appeal to me, bone broth, but I mean, I will eat liver pate. But,
no, bone broth. If you cook it, you can cook a nice bone broth. I mean, I've cooked like 3-day long bone broths where I cook the bone for like 2 days, and then I add other stuff to the bone and everything like that. So it's very slow, and it's a slow process, and you can make a really nice creamy kind of broth soup from that.
Yeah, it's really, really healthy.
And tasty and stuff. Yeah. With that type of broth, where the oil from the bone and the fat and everything just comes to the surface like that when it cools off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm getting hungry again.
And one of the other problems is convenience. Convenience food. We talked about ultra processed, but that also covers things like trans fats and seed oils. Now we're not going to go into it in a deep way, but we want a balanced diet, and we also want to be eating quality, as we mentioned. And some of the stuff we eat, like canola oil, grapeseed, soya bean, a lot of these are trans fats and saturated fats, and as I say, we have to be very, very careful with that. So again, look at the fats that you're having with the food.
Soy, just stay away from soy. I mean, yeah, soy oils and stuff like that. Just stay away from that.
Rice bran oil. Yeah.
So, for example, like if you're eating sardines, eat it in the brine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
don't eat it with an oil or anything like that.
Sunflower oil, they normally put it with,
Because
don't they, as well?
the olive oil that they use is cheap quality.
Yeah.
And if it's in soy oil or anything like that, yeah.
The only other way around it would be if you use the brine, drain the brine off, and then put extra virgin olive oil on it.
Sure, that's
that would make it totally different, you know.
And then you mash that all up and you put that on toast with some fresh tomatoes.
Yeah.
Again, I'm getting hungry.
And the last thing would be freshness of our food sources. We've spoken about this, and I mean, traditional diets are based on eating fresh or fermented fruits and vegetables. Since no refrigeration was available to the early people, and now we have, we tend to go down the other route. But fresh and fermented foods retain the highest amount of water-soluble vitamins, and the fact that some of this stuff is after 4 days, it's starting to lose its vitamin B and vitamin C content. And some of the stuff you get in supermarkets has been there 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Harvest. No, it's not all their fault, but So again, it's a form of convenience food. It's a form of ultra processed food. They've made it ultra processed food by leaving it so long.
You talk about in the days gone by when there was no refrigeration and stuff like that. Now, if you think about, for example, dairy products.
Yeah.
I used to believe that all dairy was not good for you. All dairy was evil, but it's not really. Yeah. No. For example, if you have certain types of cottage cheeses, it could be good source of protein for you there. But if you take like Parmesan, for example, as an example for an aged cheese, that's very high in bacteria. When they age these cheeses, and the smelly cheeses, and they smell because of the breakdown of the sugars and the bacteria and stuff inside that cheese, and it makes it a very nutrient dense product to eat. Very good quality protein, fats, that kind of stuff. What else? Probiotics inside there. So this is sometimes when the foods that we have like that, and we leave it for a period of time, it just becomes, and you can still eat it, and then it's good quality. Then it's going to be a very good quality food for yourself.
Unless it's down to our friend from McDonald's, when you talk about the McDonald's hamburger, when you can sit there for 2 years and it still looks the same.
Yeah.
That's exactly. a little bit worrying. But
yeah, I mean, look, he did take the cheese off. He did take the cheese off, but it was still, yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, so we just wanted to touch on that, and but next week's thing about blue zones, you want to know something about that, and the key is that we're going to teach you how to create your own blue zone,
your own environment,
for longevity, and happiness and everything. So you look forward.
And next week we'll be doing a podcast together.
Oh yes, that's right. Because I'll be in Hungary, won't I?
Yeah. Paul will be visiting me in my hometown, my new hometown.
Yes.
For the last 4 years,
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Well, as I say, show the love. Whether you listen to this on a podcast, whether you're watching YouTube or Rumble or here on Facebook as well, show the love. Comment, good or bad, and ask questions and things like that. Share if you think it's useful, someone who might benefit from it. Love to do that, and we'd love to talk to you. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Warren, do you want to finish up at all, or just say goodbye?
Just be sensible about your food intake, and if you're not 100% sure, either go do some research on what you're thinking about and whether it's suitable for you to eat regularly. Again, many of us eat some certain foods on a regular basis, and we think it's nutrient dense and it's doing us good, but it actually doesn't. And if you're not 100% sure, if you're not certain, let's put it that way, then either go do some research for yourself, at least put your mind at ease, or otherwise reach out to Paul and I, and we'll help answer the question for you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Until
Great.
then, have a fantastic week.
Yeah, have a great week, and we'll speak soon.
So next week we're going to do it. Should we do it next to the Danube? What do you reckon?
Oh yeah, blues. Yeah, that'd be, yeah. Why not? Absolutely.
So we can do the podcast next to the outside of the Danube.
There's music Danube, isn't there? Danube music.
It depends. It's some places, but there's a couple of nice spots where we can do it, where there'll be people around, but not too busy, and give our viewers a different perspective other than a white wall and a bluish grey wall.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. So it will change, but I can't say when.
And where I live, it's close to a blue zone.
Yes, I mean,
it's got a lot of the factors involved. Yeah. So yeah. All right. Have fun, everybody. Take care. See you next week.
See you later. Bye.